Stats from immigration enforcement have revealed that in 2020, 6 flights took off with less than 5 deportees on board. Yep, that's entire flights with barely anyone on them, happening multiple times over. And it's also been revealed that the government apparently has estimated it'll spend £200 million on such deportation tickets and flights. The same report also had a lot of information about councils. They've been spending £6.4 billion on commercial property and refurbs and a whole lot more. So I thought to myself, I've got to get to the bottom of all this. So who better to join us than Duncan Simpson from the Taxpayers Alliance? He's just been busy in the break telling us he just got back from Scotland. You climbed Ben Nevis.
I did.
Did you enjoy it?
Lovely time there. Really good to be away from it.
Good. But you're desperately happy to be back here, though, aren't you?
Always.
Good. Good, I like that. Duncan, tell us about these stories. What's going on?
Sure, so it's pretty remarkable numbers, really. A big part of the reason why there's so few people on these flights, which fly out from the UK to various countries, I think Albania, for example, there were 30. I think that was the #1 flight in terms of people who are being deported, 34 people, 120 staff. But the reason why a lot of these flights are so empty is you have very, very active lawyers which basically sort of put through quite a few appeals from people who are being pushed out of the country. Now, my understanding is that the government is seeking to change the law. So effectively, you only have sort of one opportunity to launch an appeal to try and, stop yourself being deported from the UK. The current system is that this can happen numerous times, which is why you have a very inefficient use of our money to actually deport people in the first place. And we've seen this, this isn't the first time this has happened. I remember reading stories about this several years back. And as you were saying, I mean, the overall cost of this over a 7-year period is going to be around about £200 million. So unless the government actually changes the law, these kind of instances will be happening time and time again, unfortunately.
And tell me as well, what are these refurbs? I was reading stories about tiles and lots of different things.
That's right. So about a month ago, I was here talking about the parliamentary restoration, and they were planning to sort of build a new temporary chamber for the House of Commons. So we've got some more figures in terms of what the cost has been so far. So we do know that the refurbishment of the Elizabeth Tower, so Big Ben, it's obviously delayed. I think the original forecast cost was about £30 million. It's now gone up to £80 million. Now, obviously... 80. So obviously...
From 30? From
30. And now that's kind of I think that's probably the thin end of the wedge in terms of the overall cost of refurbishing Parliament. This is an old building. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So obviously the work has to be done. It's a building that has to be maintained. I accept that, obviously. But when we're seeing these kind of examples of, the most obvious, wonderful parts of the building going way over budget, it doesn't bode well for what will be a multi-year, multi-billion-pound project when Parliament finally improves that in a few years' time.
I see. Every time I hear about Parliament refurb, I just sit there and think, why don't you just move it up north? No, I do. Genuinely, I'm not even joking. I think when you look at all the costs, albeit actually now because of COVID, things have started to redistribute a little bit from London, but nonetheless, costs up north are so much cheaper. So, I mean, I'm not in charge, thankfully, people might say, but I would be looking and saying, well, do we need to keep these people, this facility, this service here, or can we take it up north? I do think that they actually floated that idea, and I don't think it got very far. And what else? What's this commercial building thing? That's
right. So we've been looking into basically what is the value of commercial properties which local authorities own. And the value last year was about £6.5 billion. So the rationale for why local authorities do this is actually quite a good one. So they'll purchase properties with the intention of not seeking other sources of revenue, such as raising council tax, and then pay for council services. Now, the problem with that is, particularly in the last year, we've seen, obviously, rents falling through the roof. Commercial property is very difficult to manage with people working from home and so forth. You have fund managers in the city who do this for a career who get this wrong. The idea that local authorities have the knowledge and the wisdom to, purchase a shop or a car park and make that a sort of a commercial asset for years and years down the line often doesn't really bear fruit. I mean, there's one council, for example, Spelthorne, down in Surrey. I think their property portfolio is just shy of £1 billion. Now, this is a borough council. It's a relatively small council.
Did you say billion with a B?
Just shy of £1 billion. That's right. And they've been building this for years and years and years. Some local authorities have sort of tiny amounts of property. Some have none whatsoever. But there are a few examples who do this sort of time and time again and sort of try and get alternative revenues. But as I said, people in the city who do this for a living get this wrong all the time. The idea that councillors will definitely know this, in their semi-retirement is, I think, for the birds.